Welcome everyone to ExpoPlatform's new Digital Leaders series. This is a series of webinars where we interview innovators in our industry. We will speak about their experience of digital transformation in the events industry, and we will discuss where the industry is likely to go in the future. And for our first session, Reimagining Event Experiences, I'm very happy to welcome Eleni Lialiamou, Executive Vice President of Product Management at Informa Markets. One of the organizers we know are paying very serious attention to the digital component of face-to-face events. Very warm welcome, Eleni.
Thank you, Tanya, and so wonderful to be with you here today in the first inaugural digital series.
Thank you for being here. I would like to start. So our title of our session is Reimagining Event Experiences. And it's not accidental. So I think that the biggest courage in maybe any business is in the ability to reinvent, repurpose, reimagine. And Eleni, I know that you have a varied background, including e-commerce, mobile telecommunication, then academic publishing, software development. Maybe I forgot something, I don't know. So more than a year ago, you joined exhibition industry. Mm-hmm. And how was all your background, all your experience, how all that colored your approach to working in the exhibition industry? And what was your first impression when you joined? Maybe was there any challenge you wanted someone warned you about beforehand?
Okay, so many questions, and I like how you traveled the world with me. And I love, Tanya, that you spend the time going through where I've been. And I have been in many places in the world and in many different industries, to be fair, which has, I think, given me the ability to see some things often with a distance and also wonder when did I see something similar, or where is a relevant experience, or what happened when I was faced with a similar domain problem. And so I think when I moved into the Informa Markets and to the exhibitions world, I don't think I was warned, in the sense that I was not the person that had been to many exhibitions. I mean, the one that I used to visit every year was Mobile World Congress in Barcelona lately, as you know, precisely because I was working very much in telecommunications and telecommunications regulation and generally technologies that are innovating in that space. So that for me was the reference, right? For me, that was what an exhibition at that large scale was. Obviously, I wasn't very close to exhibitions that happen of all sizes, right, around the world, connecting buyers and sellers in so many different environments. The other thing that really characterizes me is my affinity with technology, and technology in service of humans, right? How do we bring technology and information to serve humans, to create experiences, to allow us to be more productive, to allow us to do things in our daily life and in our professional life in ways that we enjoy and in ways that makes us feel, right, we can achieve more. And obviously that's the part that came with my experience in my last work, where I started off in California. It was a tech startup, and really was in a mission of enabling progress, right, through knowledge. So that's what we were doing, right? Allowing academic publishers to publish knowledge, information to advance humanity. And for me, that connection of information, of technology, and how that then allows us to progress human life, society, was what I really could see as a connecting thread. You know, technology and information is in the core of how we advance. And so when I came to Informa, and I started being obviously parts of exhibitions of all sizes, not the Mobile World Congress example. I just suddenly realized what great potential there is in actually using technology and using information to help, you know, those communities achieve what they're there to do in ways that doesn't take away from the human element, which is the human connection and the fact that we want to be together, that we want to share moments. And I think that's where, it all kind of started. And I thought to myself, wow, that's a great space.
I very like that you mentioned communities and that events are playing a very serious role in connection members of these communities. And we started to speak about this more and more recently, I think. And also we started to, especially after COVID, we started to speak more about smart events. And it's already like a set term, smart events. But, from your perspective, what is smart event, and can you tell us more about the smart event strategy that I know you lead at Informa Markets? What does it mean from your
Yeah.
perspective?
First of all, I have to say that obviously we use the term smart events. It's not necessarily a branded term. And I always believe that things that are truly smart do not need, the adjective that they're smart, right? If you think about it, right now, everything, like from turning on the lights in our houses to turning on the heating, to everything we do, is becoming smarter and smarter in the true sense of actually being able to optimize the function that it performs, right? To save energy, to think of our car, think of all the interactions we have. It's either because they get more out of it because it's efficient, or because it really tries to create memorable experiences for us, because it really speaks to who we are or to what we need and when we need it, right? So what do we need and when we need it? So I think the smart for me is something that everything is becoming smart. And what that really means is that it's using technology, which, as you know, has progressed significantly and is still progressing significantly as we speak. And it's using information, good information, right, to allow us to make better, more efficient decisions, to allow us to form those connections. So at the core of our business, right, lies the humans and our ability in this business to bring people together to do business, right? That's what we do. We're serving those communities, we're serving those buyers and sellers. We are bringing people together. But a smart event, to use the term, is effectively how we augment those experiences and how we create an immersive element that transcends the physical world and the digital world in such a way that you and I, meet, but actually, if that's a website, if it's a mobile app, if it's even another level of immersive experience, has allowed us to find each other, has allowed us to connect, has allowed us to maybe identify new opportunities or trends, or even innovate, right? By getting that connection to spark. And that's, for me, what a smart event is bringing exactly those elements and creating experiences for buyers and sellers in those communities that allow them to accelerate the outcomes they're trying to achieve and truly have memorable experiences, which culminate, I think, in us meeting in the wonderful places we meet, Tanya, right, where we have our events.
Yes, yeah, we have lots of possibilities, lots of new possibilities to deliver better experience with technology. And from our research, as I remember, we've got incredible results where we have 250% increase in leads at smart events compared to what we have on traditional physical events. And this is new opportunities and for organizers to support and proceed. So speaking about smart event as a product, maybe that we deliver, that some organizers or like lots of organizers want to improve with the events and deliver better smart events. Speaking about the product, I know that not every organizer in their structure have product management department or product owner, product manager as a role even. And your title is Executive Vice President of Product Management. So I would like to ask you, how important do you think is the role of product management department, product manager at the organization, especially in like our industry, the organizer? And how do you approach product management, project management, and what methodology maybe you use. Can you talk about this, like what you do on a daily basis? What is your
Yeah.
main mission in the company?
Absolutely. And I think you know, as we talked before, right, about how our life has changed, right? How many of the things we do, from obviously the obvious of ordering a taxi to ordering pizza to finding where to go on holidays or booking a place to stay, has changed. And how did it change, right? It changed precisely because we approach problems that exist and will continue to exist through a different lens. So the lens is precisely of how do you make that job, right? Which is I need to order food, or in our analogy, I need to find a buyer or I need to find a distributor, right? To enter a new market, as a problem for that customer you're serving, that you examine consistently all the time and continuously through the lens of innovation and changing your approach on how you're solving that problem. And obviously doing that to maximize the outcome for the buyer and the seller. So one of the big things you do as a product manager is obviously have an approach of trying things, right? Just to put it in plain terms. And you would have heard this: fail fast. You have to have the mentality of being very empathetic on the problem you're solving, really understanding what problem you're solving for, understanding how people do it now, but more importantly, try different ways of solving that problem that are very easy to fail on, which could mean, for example, testing with wireframes, as you know, or even testing within focus groups, or conducting interviews with early iteration of your prototype. It could be a mobile app. It could
Mhm.
even be that you're beta testing your mobile app in a very closed user group so that you can get early feedback. Or you even launch it, let's say at your first event, past that point, before you then solidify that this experience actually is the one I want to scale and become part of my main product. But that discipline of observing, obviously, a lot of data, which is qualitative data and quantitative data, that allows you to really understand the problem and really understand how you're progressing in engaging with your audiences and solving the problem. The way that you're constantly, taking some action and trying to test your idea, regardless of how big or small that change is. It could be a very small thing you're changing on your event app, or it could be an entirely new journey you're creating. For example, we've seen some of the journeys we're building together, right, around lead scanning, and how we can really make this experience a very different experience, and an
Mhm.
experience that people enjoy deeply to use the event app to exchange their information. And then how you gather again that feedback on what worked and what didn't work. And it's very important to know that not everything is going to work, right? It's a very foundational principle. So you have to be in that mindset, this learning mindset, that
Mhm.
obviously you're observing, you're taking action, and then you're measuring the outcome of that action so that you can take the new action. And obviously, as you progress through the product life cycle of the
Mhm.
maturity of your product, there are certain things that, as I said, there will be experiments that will not necessarily grow, and there are things that become part of your main product, and then you scale them and roll them out. And as for every product, as you know, there is an element of maturity and
Mhm.
retiring. So that's another very important element in product management: is what needs to go, what has reached the maturity stage, what's no longer relevant for the problem we originally tried to solve. And for a very good product managers, it's not just about adding features, it's actually about removing features and really understanding what are the things that truly matter, and really having that clarity on why certain things have higher priority than others. And of course, leaning into data. That's the most important element in bringing that practice. In our industry, I think we're very lucky because we have the ability to talk with our customers and observe them as well. In, of course, the physical space of an event, we have the opportunity to get their engagement and their feedback prior to invest to the event, and obviously after the event, which I think is a great benefit for a lot of the organizers to come so much closer to the audience they're serving and really get in the pulse, right, of their community, and be part of them. The best product managers, right, are the ones that are entirely immersed into the world of their customer and really empathize, their daily life, like their daily struggle. What is hard for a distributor to find a manufacturer, and what would really make their life easier? If you can really immerse yourself and know that, then you can deliver solutions to those distributors and manufacturers to get what they need and make better decisions.
Mm-hmm. So I like how you mentioned um, the product life cycle, where we have something new that just emerged, and we have something mature, and maybe we should spot the opportunity and deploy our resources instantly into some new opportunity, pivoting and bringing something new. What do you think about planning horizon for the organizer when they think of the product, the service they deliver? Should we, as an industry, think of I don't know, 3-5 years planning, and how we can be like long-term planners, if we can, and still be agile, trying to spot this opportunity and quickly repurpose our resources and goals?
I think that's it's a nice question, Tanya. And a lot of big things start by thinking big, but actually acting small. And I think that's the wonderful principles of what you would call some of these agile methodologies, because you want to anchor yourself, right, to that bold vision. And for each of us, obviously, in the communities we serve, and as exhibition organizers, we're serving communities, and for each community, that's the beauty of it, there is some elements of what those communities expect from us to do that we need to anchor ourselves so that we can actually create those experiences. And of course, there are some common threads, I believe, across the exhibition industry that would apply in many of these communities. However, for each exhibition team, there are certainly characteristics of their communities that they need to anchor themselves against. And that's what you would call this bold vision, that the longer planning horizon, right? That you really anchor yourself into who you want to be for your community and what qualities and experiences you're creating for them. But that ability to actually break this down and take smaller steps towards that goal and keep learning from the small things you're doing is precisely what allows you to pivot, because it's not a linear path. And there are things that, as we said, you're going to be doing that will work, but it's exactly that ability to bring it back, right, and fit it back into where your direction is. So in other words, it's your North Star. So you have a very clear North Star of where you're headed.
Mhm.
But what you are doing in that planning horizon is taking that incremental action. And for us, obviously, we have events that happen once a year or maybe twice a year, but we have communities that are surrounding, our events, that are there for a longer period of time. So the engagement we can have, the things we can try to test with our communities, right? And the opportunities even in preparation to the event or on site of the event to present to those communities as new experiences we want to create for them is opportunities you cannot miss, because those are the points in time where you actually will get closer, right, and allow yourself to change, allow yourself to evolve what that journey you're creating for them is, what it contains, right? How does it start? What happens a week before, 2 weeks before? What happens where they're there? What happens afterwards? And there is another very important point that each of these communities, I think, is almost like a small global village in a way. If you would like for me to use that analogy, often it feels we're bringing together people from across the world sometimes, or even broader, regions that have something they share, right? They're seeking something and they share so much as a community. And I think there's great beauty in really drilling deeper into the needs of these communities, and for us being that connecting thread that brings them together and allows them to grow and achieve more.
Yeah. Yeah, and building a better journey for them, and this better journey maybe is something that we will innovate in, right? And innovation as as a topic, as a subject, is where we something that we reuse in different way, or can like emerge in the intersection of different fields that we have never that have never communicated together. And I'm wondering, so we usually think about innovation as about like sudden thought that appears in your head, and you're like, oh my god, it's a eureka moment, and let me take a note. But I'm wondering, is it even possible to approach innovation as a study, as a like scientific subject, as a methodology within the organization, where the project management and product development, whatever product it is, exhibition as a service, as a product, or some function in particular, is it possible to approach it with some, I don't know, on daily basis, like a regular thing that we have in mind, and maybe like an exercise where we think, okay, so to come to something innovative, we have to come through some stages like research, I don't know, etc. So, what do you think about innovation as a subject?
Yeah, I think it kind of folds
How
in.
practical it is? Yeah, sorry.
Yeah, and I think you're absolutely right. Innovation is not necessarily this eureka moment. There are examples, obviously, of so many innovators, right? And what's the common thread you'll see in some of the innovators is they were on it for many, many times, right? And it didn't happen for a repeated number of times until they actually got to it. So it wasn't that they're failing in trying to innovate; they were actually constantly testing new approaches, and ultimately there was something that worked. And also often innovation is incremental, right? Innovation can happen in small things that we don't necessarily think are this big idea, right? So innovation is not necessarily just that one single big idea. Innovation can happen in small things, and for me, for example, there are many things that I believe have a huge impact, and don't necessarily appear to be as big. The very simple things of how we engage with our audiences from the very start of their journey, like when they register for an event. It might seem like an obvious pathway, but actually, that single one journey is a space for innovation. It's a space of actually changing it, as you said, measuring consistently, and then also applying principles or practices or technologies and methodologies that are applied somewhere else, right? And constantly trying to challenge how we're approaching that single one journey, right? The
Mhm.
journeys that we create prior to the event for learning, or disseminating new trends, or presenting new opportunities. How do we make that happen, right? What are the tools we're using today? It could be webinars, right? It could be that we conduct some small groups of people discussing a topic. But how can we actually accelerate the dissemination of information for our communities in preparation of an event or at some other point in time is a wonderful space for innovation. How else is this being solved? Where else is it being solved? What does technology enable us to do that we couldn't do before? And
Mhm.
that ability to take everything we do for our buyer, for our seller, for a distributor, for a speaker, right? Each one of these stakeholders that we have,
Mhm.
and put that mindset, is what effectively allow us to align a lot of small things, which altogether, as you understand, have a much, much bigger impact. And I think underpinning that, is the information, right? Is the quality of information that we bring together as exhibition organizers. It's quality information about our audiences, about their activities, about their products, about critical supply chains and elements of what they do more holistically, even thinking beyond the product, their
Mhm.
sustainability, their ESG characteristics. All of that, as you understand, are building blocks for a
Mhm.
team to actually pull together in different ways that actually then create something that didn't exist. And that is innovation.
Yeah.
Um, and I think there's a lot of examples we see around us, right? I mean, take Airbnb, for instance, like how Airbnb started. If you read the stories, where it's really fascinating, right? Two guys literally, ending up in nowhere. And there was one thing that they didn't have right to actually launch the product. And through the trial and errors they were doing, it was that they didn't have professional photography. So once they actually got in that early prototype that they were building, professional photography of the apartments is when they started actually selling. But that proves the power that exists in taking that incremental approach,
Mhm.
and really innovating.
You see, small detail can be added, and then it will start working instantly. And to come to this small detail, you can have everything like 99%, and then yeah, something being added, and it works. So you mentioned the like you mentioned that it's important to look outside of our traditional. So exhibition industry or events industry traditionally maybe is about like plays introductory role, and it's about connection, right? I'm wondering, what do you think about this? I'm wondering, do you think that there is a opportunity for exhibition industry in the future, events industry in general, uh, move to playing a bigger role in transactional part, in buyer-seller relationships? So we introduce connect, and then we don't necessarily facilitate this like next stage in the buying cycle. So, what do you think? Do you think is in the future? Will we ever move to something? I'm talking about something that is already exists, marketplaces,
Mhm.
RFP, maybe something else. But do you think that we will ever move there as an industry?
Yeah, I think first of all, it depends on the community, right? The nature of the community we're serving, for that consideration to come into place, because obviously what need or gap does exist and what can we fill. And for example, you look at industries like food ingredients, right? Taste is really important. I mean, obviously, there's different elements of that chain, right? Of that food supply chain, but obviously it starts, from various ingredients that are then changed and ultimately all put together create this wonderful granola bar with plant-based protein, which I think is more and more popular. And so there is an element of tasting that needs to happen when you actually go into these exhibitions where people bring samples of the finished product. Now, there is a lot of specificity around it because one single ingredient can have so many different applications and
Mhm.
how you would need to bring those samples. But this is just another good example of it's not just bringing people together, which, as you said, is the intro step. You're introducing me to your plant-based protein, but I can try samples of your plant-based protein in a variety of bars as samples that you've done, and therefore that fulfills another need that I have, which is I get those samples um, within that same experience. And maybe beyond that point, what else could you be doing for me to procure, right, as you said, some of that samples that I need to do my own trials, because a lot of the food industry will do experiments effectively in recipes to put some of those first versions of my protein bar together. So there are, I believe, communities, right, where there is opportunity to look deeper into what role can we play in solving for more of the problems that these buyers and sellers have, and really accelerating their time to market, reducing the costs, enabling to make better decisions and be more prepared to accelerate the pathway, right, from initial introduction all the way to having an early version of our product into market. And obviously propelling the space for innovation, right, because information and knowledge that digitized about
Mhm.
all these products and suppliers and uses, right, allows them to have a bigger reach, and that obviously would enable these communities to innovate faster and make better decisions. So the answer to your question is I think yes, and it's just a matter of really picking where the potential exists and where we believe there are those jobs that our buyers and sellers could benefit from us playing a more active role in fulfilling, the entire buy and sell, if you like, part of
Yeah.
the journey.
And to facilitate the entire path, probably it's very ambitious, but I like, as you say, doing like small steps in this direction, and trying to play some role and test it and see if it works, if it's needed. And also look around, right? Well, what's happening outside of the exhibition industry, and what outside of events industry in general, and what threats we can see. And by threats, I would say it's almost like opportunities. If we see that there is something exist, let's think if we can do it and help them to access the market for, I mean, buyers and sellers.
And, and
Um,
and let me just add one thought there, because I think that's a very important point for, in my opinion, that's what you would call a strength, in a
mm,
SWOT analysis. So for the exhibition organizers, my belief is that they're in a position of strength because they bring people together. And so overlaying, as you understand, some other things that can happen digitally through information, through technology, through good quality data, to help them solve other problems while they're in a position to bring them together, is a unique competitive advantage versus somebody that could purely allow them to transact or connect or do business, if you like, digitally. And that would be, if you like, one point that exhibition organizers should consider as part of their
mm,
strategy, in my opinion, is that they have something that is hard to replicate, and that
mm,
human element of connection, surrounded by all these wonderful tools we bring them to help them, right, do these
mhm.
things they need to get done, with all these digital tools. Ultimately, if you understand from a solution perspective, is what would be the winning combination.
Right? Yeah. Organizer has a brand, and it's not just a brand, just a logo. It's something that buyers and sellers already trust, and
Exactly.
by bringing them together into one ecosystem, it's like a credibility sign already, right? So if I meet something at the event, I feel like I trust they are
Exactly.
credible, rather than I meet someone on, I don't know, some just random online platform.
And there's all these elements, and I think you hit it right, that word trust is ultimately what our audiences actually derive from engaging with our communities, right? Exactly what you call the brands. Those event experiences are synonymous to trust for those
Mhm,
specialist communities, and all the elements we can bring in with quality information, with quality, good data around the players in that community, and
mhm,
allowing them to use them in preparation of the event while they're there and afterwards, while we bring them also together in the physical world, is it's wonderful. I mean, the reach, we can achieve, right, and the precision we give to them to be able to make those connections and progress them, is very powerful.
right. Yeah. Speaking about our industry in general, do you think it's a very like generic question now? Do you think there is some particular problem we are yet to solve? Just I don't know, thinking about journeys, maybe thinking about visitor and exhibitor journey. Is there something that you remember and you think, yeah, I will be on that at some point, or this is something that we should hit as the industry?
I mean, there's probably the big kind of aspirational types of, things that you would, the big thing. So, for instance, for me, the big question I ask myself is, what would an event look like in 10 years?
Mhm.
Does it really mean, that it actually contains the same components as it does now? And to be fairly honest, Tanya, the other big element is the generational shift, right? That we as an industry and our communities, right, are experiencing the upcoming view and expectations of
Mhm.
the next generations, right? That see the world differently, that engage even in their professional life differently, that are used to a different way of how you connect and how you build trust.
Mm-hmm.
So for me, what is really interesting in exploring this space is what is the event going to be looking like when it actually engages now with the next two generations following us, and what elements does it have, which I believe will be radical, that it doesn't have today, while at the same time putting, the human connection at the center of it, right? Because that's what really brings humans together, and that's what we all need, right? We need to reinforce our human connection. So this is, I think, the big problem of what needs to be solved. And then there are the smaller things, which I believe are small, but are actually very exciting. From things like, we've talked about together on how do we make lead scanning or exchange of information as simple as possible, as uh, smooth as it can possibly be, right? So how do we remove any friction
Mm-hmm.
from that experience? How do we create, experiences with our event apps and our event websites that are really and truly personalized, that really cater to what you need and when you need it? And I think in Informa, that's the journey we're in, is literally solving for these problems and creating these experiences for our buyers and sellers, like literally having them see and experience in our Informa journeys the power that we can bring to them in what I call in the palm of their hands. And that is what really will make them feel, right, that actually I need this. This is something that I need, because this really helps me be productive. This helps me get the best out of the time investment that I'm making, either if I'm an exhibitor or a visitor, and I like it. I really enjoy it, right? Which is what I say, every great product gives people a smile at the end.
Yeah, this is what we have in our description. Have fun, right? So
Have
it's
fun.
it's important to have fun and like anticipate something exciting when you go to the event. It's not even if we're talking about business event, but we are people, right? People behind business, and if they are in a way like entertained, maybe they will not enjoy this event to that extent that we want them, right?
Absolutely. I mean, every product, right, is an emotional journey, and it really has to make you feel
Mhm.
good, and it has to have that element also of joy and of the unexpected, especially when you're having this build up of the physical event and the buzz that it creates in every aspect of your engagement. So yeah, I think there is a lot to do, I believe, in the event industry. And I think in the coming years, we should be seeing all these things coming to fruition, and really and truly, bringing those professional communities much more to benefit,
Mhm.
from the power of quality data, the power of technology, and, the joy of using tools and make you feel good and make you productive.
Yeah, yeah, it's all about people. It's all about making every individual who participates, play some role, who is stakeholder in the process, making them happier in like personal and business way, right? So I have lots of questions, by the way, but I would like to ask our audience, if you have any question, please add in the comments, and I will ask Eleni. Eleni, speaking about future of events and like problems we have to solve, I would like to ask a very global question. How do we approach as the industry the problem of sustainability? Obviously, with digital tools,
Hmm.
we are coming there, right? But exhibitions, especially face-to-face exhibitions, they are massively, they are not that sustainable that we want them to be. So, does it like make any sense for you in terms of your vision, and is it on your radar at all?
Yeah, I think to be fairly honest, yeah, I believe and I truly endorse this, that exhibitions in the form that they're eliminating other forms of travel and other forms of connecting, right, could actually be on a positive note. And I'm speaking to that as a professional myself, right? Because precisely the Mobile World Congress example was truly, even at these earlier years, right, a place and a space where I could pack so much, and I really met so many people from my community, right, that I would have needed to be traveling for so much longer. And it was absolutely a memorable and enjoyable experience, right, that truly I remember every Mobile World Congress and what I did. So I think the way that exhibition organizers are building those communities and bringing them together physically can certainly align in sustainability goals, in that it actually creates that opportunity for them to bond together without having to travel, in so many places so many times. But I do also think there is more we're doing actively, Tanya, through this digital overlay and technology overlay and data overlay. Because as you said, by bringing all this information and tools in the hands of our buyers and sellers ahead of the event and even throughout the year and post event, right? We're allowing them to make faster connections, and better decisions. And another big element to it is how we allow more transparency in elements of sustainability of our suppliers and the products. So these are data qualities, as you understand, of every product, how it performs and what those ratings are. And I think more and more we will be seeing that we as exhibition organizers are allowing these information data points to become more accessible, right, early on and throughout the discovery journey, so that those decisions are informed much better into what is appropriate for my supply chain and what meets my sustainability expectations. And I think a lot of innovation can come and will come from exhibition organizers in the community they're serving. And as you know, there's bigger movements in this space. So I really do believe that we have a great opportunity to be part of the solution for a more sustainable supply chains.
Yeah. It's good when we discussed this a little bit before, that whether it's luxury for the exhibition organizer to think about sustainability, is it for bigger organizers even to think about this and invest into this, or it's a global problem, everyone has to think about this. And I have one more question for you. I mean, I have lots, but we're cautious of time. So I have a more personal question to you. And as behind every decision and every movement, innovation within the organization or globally in the industry, there is a person, right? And success. So you are here. You have you. I know for sure that you play a great role at Informa Markets, in me at least, in terms of digital transformation, innovation. And so behind every success, there is a person. And our success depends maybe on like two components. One is our expertise, our experience, and another one is our personal attributes, some circumstances. And if we think from like thinking stereotypes, we would think that it's easy to be a man and not being a parent. Maybe I know what I mean, as I have two kids, for example, and or being from the industry for a long in that industry, or don't change country, don't move to another country, or speak language which is like worldwide, and being native in that language. And in your case, you are a woman, you're a mother, you moved industries, you moved countries. So what do you think that there is, and obviously on your way you had lots of challenges. So do you think you could give some like general advice to our audience? So we have I'm sure very like diverse people, different people from different countries, backgrounds, etc. So, is there any advice on how to overcome challenges, how to see maybe opportunities, or like just remembering, looking back? What would you say?
Yeah, I think I'll top it up and say I'm also Greek, which a lot of people might not necessarily come to detect from my accent. So, but I think there is a wonderful point there, and thank you, Tanya, for raising that, because it is true. What comes across in what we do is very much also who we are, and often also who we want to be, right, and where we aspire to be. And I think the word aspire and the word being visionary and the word being a believer is probably the words I'd like to bring forward, and that's maybe my advice: is be bold, have a strong vision, be very empathetic. And I think, if anything, to remember from this conversation is to build successful products. Be very empathetic with your customer, whoever that customer is. That customer could be your colleague. It could be an internal customer, right? It could be the distributor, the manufacturer, the small, medium seller, right? Really immerse yourself into the world of your customer. Be very empathetic, and attach yourself to your vision and the vision of your product, but the vision for yourself. And for me, that's what has driven me. It was the vision of what could I be doing more to serve the industries I'm in, to serve the colleagues and the teams that I had the honor to be part of. And that's what really inspires me, and that's what really motivated me to make all these changes, and always deal with something new, deal with something different, with a fresh perspective, and always lean back on what I'd learned before. Feeling that you're serving a community, feeling that you're serving a team, feeling that you're bringing people together to do something great and make a change. And believe in yourself, believe in your team, and build partnerships, and keep that belief element. I think that's a great thing. And yeah, and enjoy the ride. It's not going to be easy. I guess there's always, I think that's the last thing to say. None of these things is ever easy. None of these things is a straight line, and none of it always goes as you planned. But if you keep learning from it, and you keep gathering all these nuggets on the way, you're only becoming wiser, right?
Yeah, it's a great advice. Thank you very much, Eleni. I haven't noticed, but there is a question. I would like to put it on the screen now. So it's from Ganesh Kumar Murugan, who asks about so in the process of an organizer evolving into digitally enabled setup, which is a better option, either to build in-house product or produce readily available products. Oh, sorry, procure. So is it better to build it in-house, or it's better to partner up with the technology provider? Do you have any advice on
Yeah, I think as just my perspective, obviously there is better chances of using a SaaS platform because you're actually benefiting from the experience and knowledge and the collective effort, right, of all these people that are doing something in the same domain space that you are. So you're tapping into the intellect, right, and the outcome of a broader community. Where I think the opportunity is for all event organizers is to bring product management practices where your community has needs you want to serve. So you might choose, provider A, B, or C for some of the technology, the events apps, your websites, other tools that are used to create those experiences. But be very clear on how you engage with your community, how you create, let's say, new journeys or new features, if you like, that serve your communities, and then have a way to funnel those into your platform provider, because that's what really improves effectively also those platforms. The more we understand our communities and their needs, and we're anticipating them, the more we're influencing, as you understand, the roadmap of our providers, and we're pushing them into the future.
Yeah, I like your idea of benefit from the whole community, because if you will work with some technology provider and they work with others, so it's like beneficial for the whole community and beneficial for yourself, because you can't come up with all ideas, maybe you can benefit from others. So I would like to thank you very much for this interesting discussion, and also thank you for your advice again. I like your approach and your advice on being people-centric. People in like broad understanding, customers, colleagues, friends, family, and be bold and be active, proactive, and let's not afraid of failure, because failure is a lesson, and lots of experiments can bring us to something incredible in the future, and let's create the future ourselves. Thank you very much, Eleni, and thank you everyone who listened to our webinar, and looking forward to the next session, next webinar.
Thank you, Tanya. It was a pleasure. Thank you so much.
Thank you. See you.